Hey, welcome everybody to podcast number 33 presented by 5 Pin Universe. I'm your host, Karie Kreutz. We have the usuals here, Adam Weber, Tim Wiseman, and Dexter Wiseman. And our special guest this week, Victor Fobert. He is the 2017 Heritage Traditional Champion, as well he won it in 2010, and the 2012 TPC at Sherwood Champion. We're happy to have him on here. And our first topic will be Neb's Fun World. They're having the Club Tour event on Thanksgiving weekend, same weekend as the Autumn Open of the WCBT. And they've posted some pretty cool stats coming up. They already have over 200 entries signed up and 140 individuals, I do believe. Pretty amazing numbers, considering I don't believe they were even close to that in prior years. What are you guys' thoughts on the Club Tour's newfound numbers?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. They made some really big changes this year. They go into the match play format in the finals, the 3-game matches, total pinfall. The bracket is the two sides, the A and B sides. So obviously there was a want to do that. I think we all knew that after the tournament. Was it Bayshore?
Midland, right?
Yeah, in Bayshore,
Yeah, sorry.
Bayshore, yeah. So I think it was pretty obvious after that tournament that there was definitely a need for a tournament like this. So it's great to see, and it just continues to show that the cash tournament side of the game is definitely growing. That's definitely the area of the game that's growing the fastest. Not receding like the other ones.
I just find it kind of like interesting that you add more games, you boost up the entry fee like almost double, right? Or at least an extra $60 or $70, and you absolutely knock the entries out of the park, right? Usually that doesn't work with a lot of things out there, so that's pretty awesome to see that. Obviously, I know Mitch sort of talked about it a little bit with them and started pumping people in there, but obviously it's really great to have somebody as in Jeff England in there to help out the whole situation as well.
I think it just goes to show that if there's money to be won, it really wouldn't matter what the cost would be, right? If you can win up to $4,000 or $5,000 for winning the tournament, you're willing to put in the up to $200 for a try at it, right?
Yeah.
When you're only winning a couple thousand and you got to pay $60, it doesn't seem as enticing for some reason.
I think the biggest thing too.
I also think that a large part of it. I mean, there's a lot of them that have come out and played the WCBT events. I mean, 10, 12, 13 of those players have, but you're looking at 120, 100 players that may not have ever played a cash tournament like that with that amount of money going into it. It's one thing to go into a tournament and spend $80 or $100 on a tournament. It's another thing to go in and put in 200 or 180. There's an exhilaration sort of factor to it too. No different than us playing in like things like the Invitational now. You throw in $1,000, all of a sudden your blood gets going pretty quick. So I think that probably plays into it too, because now it's a new experience and a little bit nervous and a little bit of excitement, right? So I think that definitely has a factor.
The big thing for me is I think as soon as you equaled out the payouts way better, it wasn't so top heavy. First and second weren't getting all the money, and then everybody else got nothing. Because I remember back, correct me if you're wrong, that if you made the club tour, you weren't guaranteed getting any money on that, right? So there was no cut money, right? So I think that's a huge factor. People feel like they can invest into the event and still have a chance to make some money back, right?
Yeah, you're right. This is the first year they're doing a cut money, right?
Correct.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well, guaranteed cut money, I do believe. I think there was still cut money in the previous years, but it was based on entry, I do believe.
Yeah, and now they're paying out 55% of the prize pool is towards the cut, and 45 is the prize to the Sunday finals.
Yeah, well, I think that's what really boosted the WCBT events, was guaranteeing a cut amount to those players that made the cut, because then they'll play 2 shifts or even 3 shifted to get a good portion of their money back.
Absolutely.
it definitely brings entries in instead of the winner wins $4,000 and then second place wins $1,000, right? It's not really that enticing when I can make my cup money back pretty quick, and then playing on house money is always nice too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that I think has been seen over the last few years is you just see how many more cash tournaments, just even in Ontario alone, sure, they've been spread out because you had Timmins back in June. I think it was Timmins in June. So it's just like all of a sudden they've got more incentive to work at this a little bit more. And then I think there's been enough drive through just even the guys that were coming out for the WCBT that it was like it's enough incentive now that it pushes you to that next level of your game. So I think people might be actually seeing that and seeing, okay, well, these guys have this. How do we keep up with that on our side? So you see Newfoundland doing the same thing, and we already know that that Newfoundland has really strong bowlers. But it's like as soon as you start getting Canada up to an entirely whole new level in the game, it's insane to think about the potential that exists there every time you go to a national, whether it's for the Open or for Masters. It always seems like it's the next step. You have to be just that much better and that much more consistent to be able to succeed there. So I think it's people are starting to buy into that realization that you need to bowl at that level with that competition and that mental strain to be able to succeed in those long runs and those long tournaments
on a semi-regular basis too.
Yeah.
Doing it every year at nationals is one thing, but if you're not doing it, in the 12-month span in between, it's a totally different ballgame. You have to be comfortable in it on a pretty regular basis.
Well, now, like, how long do you think? Because Ontario now has Neb's Club Tour, they have the Elmira Club Tour event, they have Timmins in February, and they have Midland in June. How long do you think it is the NBT takes to move their entry fees up? Because I do believe they're still fairly low.
They are at $80.
60, I think.
Is it 60?
I think it's $60.
But honestly, from my understanding, I haven't talked to them in a little while about it, but it didn't sound like they really had a game plan to increase that. Just because of volumes of bowlers out there, they just wanted to have something like this. So and they wanted to make it more accessible. So I don't know. They do have their high roller events, which are like, I think those were $200. But again, it was a very limited number of people that participated in those, right? So I don't really think that they have a game plan to increase the entry fees out there.
They're still fairly young too. Right? I think they're just entering their third season as well, right? So
yeah, something like that.
It may take a little bit, but I can see that entry fee going up, just like it did in Ontario. And how long is it before the WCBT all of a sudden increases in entry fees, right?
Yeah.
It'll all be a standardization at some point, right? It is strictly a numbers game, but realistically, if you're willing to drop $60-$70 on a ship, you're probably willing to drop 100, right? You're willing to drop 200, and now you're probably willing to drop 220 or 250 per ship, right? Or money will always bring people in. And especially with that new club tour event at Nebs there, having that extra shift available too, along with those extra money, and then of course the big wave that everybody's talking about in the 5-pin world right now, it was bound to happen at some point, right? So hopefully this explosion kind of takes off for the rest of, really call it Eastern Canada. And I could definitely see maybe even an additional event popping up somewhere in conjunction with the other 4 that are out there right now as well.
Yeah. Well, like Midland is obviously brand new. But like Thunder Bay, it's just Thunder Bay is kind of so remote. I wonder if Timmins is super remote too. So who's to say that something doesn't pop up in Thunder Bay, or if Winnipeg finally gets something going. I know Rossmuir kind of fell apart there without the support, but that was kind of before the WCBT really hit its stride too. So maybe now if somebody was to come up with something, you would see a lot more interest to move out that far.
I could see one even in like Gatineau or Ottawa, right? Having that cross-border, tournament in there as well.
Yeah.
And the pure volume of players that are in the area, like to me, it would be an ideal place. Obviously we've had a bunch of nationals there recently, so it's more than capable of holding a big event.
Yeah, I agree. And just keeping along the same path here, so on Thanksgiving weekend as well is the 47th annual Autumn Open, the longest running tournament under the same name, obviously, because the Rose Bowl has been around forever, which is now the TPC if people don't know. But the Autumn Open has already got 100 individuals signed up for it, and Autumn Open has always been a little bit smaller compared to the rest of the WCBT events for the last few years. But it seemed like it's starting to hit its stride now. It has the Thursday night event, the doubles event, their high roller event, I guess you could call it. It's nice to see the innovations that they're coming up with their limited space too, right? It's 18 lanes, but they got really no spectator room in that Paradise Lanes, but the competition is unreal. I still think it's one of the hardest tournaments to compete in. The cut's at 40, but then you have 15 long games if you make the 16 cut after that, right?
Still believe it's the toughest format to win. I think it's...
Yeah, I agree.
Even making the top 16s, knowing that you're going to end up having to throw another 15 games on top of the 8 that you just threw, there's a bit of a mental letdown, I think, as you're getting into there for the first game or two, because it's not a single game elimination type format. You still have to keep throwing. But then as you probably get about game 6, 7, 8, all of a sudden now there's a little bit more of the mental fatigue hitting you, obviously the physical fatigue hitting you. You start seeing some of the players, or maybe even a little less experienced players, in that moment start to kind of fade out a little bit, and then you see some of the experience kind of come to the forefront. Extremely difficult type tournament, and especially when you have such probably a good 10 to 12 top end talent, like top end talent that seems to make that 16 every single year. Every one of those matches are going to be a grind for an extra 50 points. And then, at the same time, that there's probably going to be a 360 or 370 somewhere down the road that probably trumped your 300 in a win, right? So there's a lot to kind of think about in that moment. It's just so grueling. And where else are you going to have that many players throw 23 games in an afternoon?
Well,
Yeah.
To be fair, Adam, every tournament, if you run the gauntlet, that's what you're looking at.
Minimum.
Heritage, you look, what do we figure we end up doing? So 7 through the first 3 brackets, there's 21 games. And then
games, right?
You finish throwing 24 to actually finish the tournament all the way through. So I think the biggest thing with the Autumn Open is just the timing of it. You throw the 8-game block in the morning to figure out your 16. That starts at 8:30 or 9. And then your second block, once you're in the 16, starts at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's the challenge, is getting through that period of figuring out, okay, mentally, but also physically, because you've been at the lanes a heck of a long time if you stay and watch Constellation. So that's probably the most grueling part of it, is figuring out how to manage your time and like your downtime during that period. So that's what I've always found the most difficult whenever I do make the 16s there, is just how do you manage your downtime?
The supper break is killer. Absolutely. I seize up between the first couple of games. I'm a little bit sore or whatnot like that. I mean, I'm completely in shape too, but you're right, Adam. Game 7, 8, 9, all of a sudden you start getting that fatigue, right? And you kind of, after so many times you make the 16s, if you're fortunate enough, like we all have been, you kind of know how to manage it, I guess, right? You know how to. You don't see a lot of us get super amped and excited every shot or anything like that anymore. You see a lot of us sit down and relax, and even though most of us are usually standing, you kind of conserve your energy a lot more. That I find it is more of a mental grind and a physical grind with it all.
Yeah, it's weird. I kind of find it a little bit like a Masters, like an Alberta Masters event, where it's kind of low key for the first like 3/4 of it, and then it starts to get to intense to the end. I don't know. For me, like the first half of it is not just throwing balls, but still just kind of throwing balls, because you're not getting eliminated right away. There's no immediate threat. If you make a mistake, you have time to recover, because it is such a long time. So I find myself being pretty comfortable really early, because I know that I've got a little bit of room for error. If I'm struggling to start, that's okay. So I can freewheel a little bit. So that's kind of why I like the format, honestly. And then you start getting a little bit more intense at the end of the games, or at the end of the tournament, if you're still fighting for spots.
Yeah. Don't even remember, those bonuses are huge, especially in that format, right? That 50 pins, yeah, you're not eliminated right away, but if you lose the first 3-4 matches, you're down 200 to some of the players that hit their stride early, right? It's tough to gain those pins back.
But you definitely can.
Oh yeah, it's possible.
Within reason.
But
you
don't see too many guys come back at the end in the last 5 games to win it. It's usually you have 4 or 5 guys playing for it in the last 5 games, right?
Honestly, the 50-point bonus is huge, in the aspect is how many times you shoot a 220 maybe to win your match. Now you're 270. That's kind of a placeholder, right? And it kind of saves you there. I find that's where the big 50-point is. Unless you shoot a huge game all of a sudden and you shoot 380 or something, you get a 430 out of it, right?
Yeah.
I still remember losing to Mark Miller the 1 year, and I think I ended up I led the field in averages 290-ish or so for the 15 games, but I ended up going 7-8 in that battle. And I think he went like 12-3 and beat me by 10 or something along those lines, right? So, but again, that was that year. I had a real slow start in the wins column, and then started finding the stride, but still losing those matches, but still finding stride and lots of points going through. And then it's really tough to come from behind, or at least from a slow start. I think it's tough. I think mentally you just start, thinking that you're a little bit behind the 8 ball. You start pressing a little earlier than you really want to. And then here comes even more mental and physical fatigue because you're pressing so hard early, right? Definitely find more success, if you come out, you shoot your 8.5 triple or whatever for first 3, go win 2 of the first 3 matches. Now you just feel kind of grooved, and now you can just go play, right?
And that's the advantage of playing one-on-one matches over and over and over too, is that you can find that groove. It's way easier to find that groove when you're playing one-on-one than it is like 3-on-3 or 4-on-4, having that break in between. If you're just constantly throwing balls, as long as you don't have to wait half an hour between games, it's fine.
Was that directed at Bobby Kate?
No, actually, that wasn't who was directed at. But we'll go with that one. That one's okay too.
That's fair, yeah.
Kevin Holdsworth. I don't know. Oh, sorry, it's on my throat.
Sean McKinnon last year, I think.
Let's just shout out everybody.
Hey, but not me.
Yeah, never Weber.
Actually,
never happened.
But I'll still get blamed for it.
Gamer. You're pretty slow in the 20 gamer, remember?
We would have been done by 4:30 if it wasn't for Adam.
Pretty sure that's not the case, but
I do remember just like yourself and Mark just bowling on the single lane by yourselves because the other team had already walked off and you guys almost finished last. So.
Yeah, that was by design though, and then all of a sudden, hey, we're like 2 frames behind, and then caught up. Yeah. It's like game 14 or 15, and us old guys, we can't take that 10-minute break. So we were just kind of slowing down just so we were on par.
So if the listeners didn't know, Sherwood Bowl held a 20-game overnight marathon on the weekend. Adam and Victor finished first and second. Pretty stellar. How do you guys
in that order?
Yeah. How do you guys find a 20-game overnighter? Is it pretty exhausting?
Well, it's been 3 days and I'm still hurting. Not quite as bad, but man, that first day, Sunday, was very painful. Monday was worse, and then it just starts getting better and better. But man, what a mental grind! 20 games overnight. You know, the last 10 games you're just bagged and just kind of throw balls to throw balls. But to mentally get through and actually throw quality shots. I'm looking forward to seeing how that helps, even the Autumn Open, hoping to get to the 16s again and basically living through that 2023 game block already.
Yeah, for myself, it was interesting. I actually had more issues earlier in the evening. Then about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning is actually when I really started throwing. I did catch Adam. I broke through the 400 pin deficit or whatever it was that existed at one point. But yeah, it was just one of those things of that's where I kind of got mentally and physically got myself corrected and could just throw the good shots that needed to be there. Sure, it was a no-tap tournament, but really when you're looking at our caliber of bowler, you're not throwing a lot of no-taps, to be honest, because we know where the ball needs to be, and you get kind of the odd shot that, okay, that was different, and that's the one that leaves the corner. But when you're barely getting, I think I averaged maybe one a game in total, because I know that there was a lot of games that I did not throw a no-tap in there. But it was interesting to see kind of where it all played out for myself. Sunday hurt, but Sunday evening hurt, I should say. That was the bad one. But yeah, I'm actually surprised how well my body's holding up. A lot of you guys know, you guys all know on the podcast, hurt my knee pretty bad. I think it was 2012. No, sorry. 2015 is when I backed out of 2016, I think. Wasn't it, Karie, that I backed out of the Open and Shelby stepped in? Yeah. So,
2016.
I'd badly hurt my knee that year. And just ever since, it's just been kind of a slow grind, modify the approach to get done what needs to get done so that I can keep bowling at this level. So, yeah, body held up. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, always. And just so the listeners know, me and the Wisemans didn't play in the 20-game marathon, or else it wouldn't have been Weber winning. But
someone had to work it and flip pancakes, and that was me.
I was going to say, but yet they were both there. So
Vic had some bold predictions about TPC scores, though.
I did. Yeah. Are we willing to share those, or what?
I don't care.
So Dex and I were just kind of talking there, just trying to figure out how many 400s we're throwing this past year for the TPC, and I think we had 10, I think was the number you guys threw at me.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
With the condition in the lanes, I felt that there's a good chance to hit at least a dozen 400s there. Scores are definitely still there. That piece has not changed. It's just getting used to the approaches. I'll be very happy if they stay the same condition as they are right now. But I guess just over time, they will slow down just a little bit, just with the people being on them. So it should be good. I think it'll be good for November.
Just bring your sawdust with you, Vic. You can just throw it out on the lane, keep them smooth.
Yeah, I'm accustomed to that Riverside approach, so I can adjust a lot easier.
Yeah. A good slick approach.
It was a grind for me and Dexter. We barely stayed awake at some point. So I was telling Dexter on a side note that I was making a burger for myself, put it in the oven. I was so excited about this burger, opened up the oven. I didn't put it in. I had the oven running for 5 minutes. So
yeah, he literally just put an empty pan into the oven and ran it.
But and I want to clarify that Adam wasn't the slow one. It was actually Johnstone. Johnny thought he was already finished the game, went out for a smoke, went to the bathroom.
This is true.
And I blamed it on Weber, and not one person stuck up for him.
It's just it's assumption now, right?
It's your reputation. Your reputation precedes you, sir.
It doesn't bug me.
Who won the POA side? Robert Tompkins from
Robert
Grand Prairie?
Tompkins by like
People
700.
unreal. Yeah, he was like plus 1,500, and second place was like plus 800.
So GP is still playing tough then, is what you're
Well,
saying.
it was last year's average.
Last year's average. But Robert and I were talking just briefly about kind of what the new owners are doing, and he says it's just getting the oil back on the lanes and switching up the bases.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that should be averaging around that 250, 240, like they're actually back there again. So he's going to work and see what they can do on that side to make sure that northern team for the Open stays strong, because I think that's a big part of that northern zone for the Open. As I sidetrack into that one.
No, that's perfectly fine. We like segues.
Yeah. The north is going to be strong. It just with the amount of excitement that's happening up there, it's such a breath of fresh air. It's awesome to hear. So looking forward to having them at all the events, and then it's pretty sweet. Good job, Gerald.
When's the next time Alberta opens up in North? And will it be GP or is it over in Lloyd?
Well, Lloyd doesn't have shields right now, so or the new light system yet. I sent it out, so until Lloyd does that, then it should be up in GP again. So if we went
It'd be
south,
a couple years away though, wouldn't it?
Went south Red Deer, it'd be 2 years after us. So it'd be us this year in Calgary, and then it'll go up to GP after that, or I guess North, you can say. I won't speak on behalf of GP.
Lloyd may have their system up and running by then they can decide between the two centers.
Yeah.
Bonnie can help make that decision.
Yeah.
Where's the Open being held this year?
Bonnie Doon.
Lovely.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I like Bonnie Doon.
I think a lot of people like Bonnie Doon.
You know what though? I think Bonnie Doon is fair enough that it's going to be everybody's going to be getting those breaks, or nobody's getting the breaks. So
the schedule is going to be a little bit different than normal. I'll put it that way. So just going over the schedule with them right now. So it's not approved yet, but obviously singles will be on the Wednesday. And then he's requested not to bowl Thursday night. So we'll be done before 6:30 on Thursday night. So in the past, we've done 10-10-5 or 9-9-7 or something like that. It'll probably be closer to like an 8-10-7, something like that. So you still get the 25 games in. Friday night will be if you're going traditional, it'll be the same length. And then if we're doing the 9-9-7, where we spread it out a little bit, the 7 will be on the Saturday. So sort of what you're looking at there.
Does that push pictures to Thursday night then?
We can do pictures. We usually have the Wednesday night. We have the top of the end booked, so we'll do it up there. Pictures are, we'll get pictures done pretty fast.
Obviously gives you the option to move it to Thursday now too, right?
We could, yeah. We can figure that out. Yeah, yes, you're right, Karie. I just literally Martin just talked to me about it yesterday, so so I was like, okay, I'll get on it.
No, that's good that you guys are already discussing it. It's not till Easter, but obviously being on top of that, getting that all figured out ahead of time, then you don't have the headaches the couple weeks before all of a sudden scrambling, right?
Well, and obviously, you know what? I'm sure their leagues are wanting to know if they need to take that week off or need to be pushed back a week. And it's right during playoff season for them, so that's what their biggest concern was. If it wasn't during first and second week of playoffs, they would just said, okay, well, it's pushing you back a week.
Right.
But, yeah, it'll be all good. Yeah, I'm interested to see how everything works out. Yeah, the scoring. I know Diane wasn't very happy with the situation. She made it very vocal with me, Violini, at Open Provincials. But the ladies are going to have a hard time, I think, depending on who they are, most of them, just because you won't carry the corners. But maybe you're going to see the more aggressive ladies, like the Haleys and, those kind of people, they'll do very well out there.
Haley, Kelsey, Jen.
Yeah.
Bonnie.
Yeah. Bonnie, yeah.
So just bring your hard chuckers in. That's all I would say. Just bring them in off the bench.
Diane's gonna have to hit the weights before she shows up.
she's she's just going for 280. I think that's what she's going for.
That's fair. She can do it too. So
Yeah, she can run that consistent. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what the Open is going to be looking like, I think. We're talking about GP. IP is actually going up there this year, interprovincials.
Okay.
And North hasn't fielded one since Dexter coached in like 2012, a team or something like that, around that time. So they're actually already committed over 20 plus people already for the roll-offs, and that was a couple weeks ago, and so they're going to commit to all 10. So like we said, like I think Gerald's a huge success up there. But when you guys talked about us hosting the GP up there for the Open, I thought that was really good because North has finally got stronger because of it. I think because they finally start participating and the guys started playing it, and I don't think we have to worry about, at least for men, for numbers anymore. Yeah,
definitely agreed. It's just it's nice to see a center thriving again, right? Especially in northern Alberta. And
so much of it just comes from the owner's enthusiasm.
Correct.
You know, if they're excited to be there, people will be excited to be there. You know.
Yeah.
And he's been such a big face of the community up there as it is. So, he was a really good person to take over.
Yeah,
well, not only that, they've got so much community support within that kind of core group. What I classify kind of the core group, the players that are typically playing the Open anyways, like the Roberts, Robert Tompkins of the world, they're kind of infusing that enthusiasm back into that local community, and I hopefully it keeps spreading throughout the other communities in northern Alberta as well. But there's so much talent up there, and if you can get them all playing at the same time, like they're a formidable force, especially on the male side. Obviously, Bonnie on the female side, and there's a few others that can certainly play. Oh, yeah. But the male side, like that could I could at some point in the near future, I could see them challenging for a national spot out of Alberta. If they continue to keep growing the way they are right now.
I've always said this, and maybe Vic doesn't want me to bring it up, but in 2010 when we beat you guys in the last game, Open Provincials, right? You guys had a hell of a team. You had Ian Doby, you had Perry Gillum, you had Steve White was on that team, yourself.
Yeah.
That was
Tom Walker, I think, was 6. I think he was the last one, wasn't he?
McKinnon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was a good player. And in a way, obviously I'm glad I won and our team won, but if you guys won, I think it would change the North, I think, a little bit. Right?
Yeah, there was a period there where we were definitely the underdogs, but we played for it.
Yeah.
North played for it, and that's the thing that I think a lot of the guys in the North forget is they've made it there to the provincial, and they all can bowl. We've all seen them bowl before, and they've got multiple nationals through a lot of them through their youth leagues, and have just now they're getting into the adult ranks, and it's getting that reminder that we can compete with the Edmontons, the Red Deers, the Calgarys, the Medicine Hats, the Lethbridge. Like they can compete just as strong as anybody else in the province. It's just remembering that they can actually do that and want to do that.
Yeah. At that time period, you guys had like real bona fide leaders between yourself and Perry was a hell of a leader.
Ian.
Ian, absolutely. I wish he still played.
Was Barry on that team too?
Barry Honey was on that team too, yes.
Yeah. Wow. But I mean, like real leaders, and I just think that's really the next step for the North is like you have a bunch of the young guys coming up, which is awesome, but like one of them has to become like a real bona fide leader for them for long term, and I think they're going to be really good when that happens.
No, exactly. They are always strong. It's just like you said, following through and
somebody to remind them
together.
all the time that, hey guys, we could do this.
I
This is our
actually think,
tournament.
I actually think I'm more scared about North and Calgary and Central because at least we know what we're getting out of them. You know, you have to play well, right? North, it is like they can come out unglued, you know, and you just don't know what to expect from them. And it's not
Right.
because we just don't play against them enough, right? Or they don't play enough, I guess you can say.
That's not true. We know exactly what to expect. They're going to spare
pin.
every 3-pin.
3-pin. Every 3
They're going to spare every damn one of us.
No, you make a valid point though, Tim. It's kind of similar with South, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, there's so much talent that any given moment they can shoot 14 and a half at you. And yeah, North's the exact same way. But Central, you know it's going to be a super hard match. Calgary, you know it's going to be a super hard match. And then all of a sudden there's a bit of a letdown from all those, right? Because you're gearing yourself up for that one match. And then, not to say that there's an afterthought, but all of a sudden there's a bit of a letdown. And then, you know, after 2 frames, when, you know, South is up on you by 100 pins, that, okay, it's time to get back at it, right? Like, these guys are players in this sport. They don't always play all the cash events, but at least the Alberta players know who these guys are and what they're capable of, right? I think for probably a good decade there that a lot of people probably took those matches for granted, whereas honestly I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't think that's the same mentality anymore, which is a great thing for Alberta bowling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think things have, not to say that like Central, Edmonton, or Calgary have leveled out or anything like that. I think North and South, I guess their primary players are really stepping into it. Like, look at Alexander Young out of the South. Like, he can play, and it's amazing him not playing more cash tournaments. He was there a couple of years ago. I think he played pretty much all of them, but the last couple of years, I imagine school's getting in the way or whatever the situation is. But see those guys come back and lead that team. They can be pretty tough to deal with.
You know what they're missing down there, though? They're missing a Curtis Deering. Like, they're missing that one X Factor type player that people can really rally around. And there's lots of, you know, super talented people down there. A lot of the old crew just don't play anymore for a number of reasons, right? But even if that crew came back and kind of provided that extra little bit of support, like bona fide teams that could easily go to nationals every year. Yeah. But I still think they're missing that X factor. Curtis was so phenomenal for so long, and you just know when he was on a team that 1400 was possible every game.
Yeah. Not to say this topic isn't highlighting or whatever, but we'll segue because not everybody's Alberta listeners. So the Newfoundland Bowling Tour has decided to bring an event back that hasn't been played on television since TSN dropped it. The Pins Game. April 2020, I do believe they're going to play it. The WCBT currently plays it on the Tour Championship, and now the Newfoundland Bowling Tour is going to bring it back. Super unique format if people haven't been watching the WCBT episodes coming out this week. Yeah, you could literally lose pinfall by 100 but still win the match. What are you guys' thoughts of them bringing that to the forefront of their tour?
It's great. I mean, anytime that we have, you know, a different, unique format, you know, you're going to get more people to come out. You're going to create more interest, and that's really what we're all about right now, right? So it's always fun to try something different, and it'll be good for them to experience that. I think that's awesome.
Best part is it's a proven format, right? It's an exciting format. You know for a fact that this is ball for ball. You don't have to worry about losing 2 frames. Your next ball or that carryover. There's nothing like a carryover, right? You get in that moment where you 3-4 frame carryover. You know if you lose this frame, you'll probably lose the match, right? There's probably more pressure as those keep going on. It's the only format that's going to happen.
I'm just wondering if Shane got bored winning the other formats. He just wanted to have another chance to win a different one. It's basically the Shane Chafe Bowling Tour right now. He's playing pretty damn well. I think honestly, it's a grind actually. You know, the first time I was on the TV finals, or I guess you tell the film finals for the WCBT, it was a mental grind because every ball mattered, and you'll find that out in our matches coming up. You know, some of us struggled with that, and we didn't play very long, so not alluding to anything there, but it was good, and I think it's a good format for those guys to get involved into.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're super excited to bring that format to their tour, and I hope it runs really good. So we'll move into our special guest questions. I'm pretty sure this first one is a no-brainer, but we'll ask it anyways. Victor, who is your bowling mentor?
Yeah, pretty easy to nail that one down to a single person. That being obviously my dad, Lawrence. He was one. Well, when we had Riverside at the old place, he was on the ball team there, and usually I'd sneak away while they were having their after game delights, and I'd go be down on the lanes throwing games, and so that was kind of something that really pushed me. And then he started watching me a little bit more, and then pushing me a little bit more. And as soon as we started bowling league together, it really started clicking and changing for me. Went from like the 180 average to 220 within just a season of just having some being pushed rather than just myself pushing. So yeah, that's definitely the easiest one. But I have to give credit where credit is due as well. Looking back to guys like Shelby Crest, Gary Baird, Rob Hutchinson, Darby Crest, Mike Bishke, those kind of guys who were in seniors while I was going through bantams. They were always at the lanes as well. And, you know, I'm throwing games on Saturdays just after YBC's done or something. And, yeah, they're there and, you know, throwing the extra tips in, or, you know, they're setting pins in the back while they're doing some cleaning or something. They'll throw up a corner or something for me to sit and shoot at for some time. And, you know, they help push the game just a little bit more than what it was, rather than just throwing balls. It's a purpose practice. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. One thing that some people may not know, and maybe Vic's not even aware of it, or even some guys on his podcast, your dad kind of got a nickname at Open Provincials. All the teams kind of called him the horse. He was guaranteed to throw 270. It didn't matter what condition it was. They knew Lawrence was going to come out and average 270 at the provincials, so they just had to avoid his games and hopefully pull the team points out. Your dad was quite the force in Central Alberta bowling, and obviously Alberta bowling for a long time. I was fortunate enough to bowl with him a few times, and nothing but good moments, that's for sure.
Lawrence had the most clutch 10th frame, didn't he, in Bonnie Doon for the Open Nationals?
For that 05 Nationals, yeah.
He banged out 10 in order for them to win their Open Gold, and I think that's all the marbles on the line, and he does it. I think that's quite the story.
That's hitting the walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth, right? That's what we all dream of right there.
Yeah.
Phenomenal player.
Yeah, he still throws 250 average in league. So
At Riverside.
At Riverside. Yeah.
Some guys can't even make open teams out of that place.
How about you, Karie? How'd that go?
Not very good. Moving on. Victor.
It wasn't from lack of trying, right, Karie?
No, I tried my butt off. What's your favorite tournament?
Been thinking about that last little bit here, knowing, well, definitely since yesterday, but even listening to all the other podcasts, trying to actually nail that down. Obviously, I've had some really good success in Heritage, not just at the traditional, but every time I go there, I seem to do well. Sherwood Park has always been a great place for me for TPC. done awesome there for the Open when it's been there as well. So, I've always been lucky and had decent success in almost everywhere I go. The dark horse for me as far as tournaments, though, has always been Autumn Open. I think I'm the only one on currently within the speaking portion that has not had the opportunity to win that one yet. So,
Loser.
But I have to say, I've probably had more top 5 finishes than all you guys combined at this point, too. So,
Overall, yeah.
So you're saying you're not a closer.
I'm not a closer, yeah.
Doubtful.
I've had a lot of Calcutta money out of that place. I'll put it that way. So, so that's one thing that I've always liked that format because it is a true grind, and it was already brought up earlier today as well that the format makes it what it is. You throw 40s, and then you have to throw another 8 games to make 16s, and then you got that break in there, and then you have to throw another 15 games on top of that in head-to-head matchups for an extra 56 or 50 sticks. So, there's a lot that you got to keep going through, and when you finish bowling at 9-10 o'clock at night, after having a break in there, it really puts a lot of mind stress on there. So.
Yeah, especially when Weber makes the top 16. It's definitely a 10 o'clock finish. So
You're welcome.
Yeah, I've had a lot of days driving home at 1 o'clock from that tournament too. So
Just trying to lengthen the experience for you all.
Yes. Thanks, Adam. Sure. Yeah, so I'm actually looking forward to that one this year. I'm going back into it. Haven't bowled it for the last 2 or 3 years. Just between family things that keeps coming up, or illness that you can never can control it. So I'm looking forward to it again this year.
Good. So do you have a toughest match or your favorite match?
Toughest and probably favorite at the same time. First time I actually got to bowl my dad in the Open. I was bowling out of the north. I was living in Edson at that point, and bowling in Bonnie Doon. Actually, it was the first time we actually competed, and it was both Central and North were out of the first place run. And of course, Gino being Gino goes to the coaches and says, put Victor against his dad. So I know I did not throw well, but yeah, he did the Lawrence thing, and gave me a few frames at the start and said, screw this, I'm going to start. And he just went on a run and threw 270. So, but it was, it's something that you don't get to do very often. So it was definitely very memorable for me. It's one thing I'll remember for a while.
That's a pretty cool memory. Obviously not too many of us would ever get that opportunity. So pretty cool that you got it. So what's in your arsenal? What equipment do you have?
Well, running SST8s. I've had them since 2013. So I said in my interview within the magazine that I must have gotten a lucky set or something because they've held up. Running S10s though for my slider. So run that pretty much everywhere I go, and just a matter of modifying how I go through everything. So. Change the approach and stuff. Sorry, my daughter just came to say goodnight again. So, here's number 2. So, so that's what I'm running for shoes. Bowling balls. I feel like I'm kind of known for the half halves. My green and whites, the Pro
racers.
Bro Comet rubber racers. They're one of the first sets out. I've had them since '94, so they've done me well. I've picked up, so they're 4 and 7/8 3/6. I picked up a couple years ago, picked up some soft rolls. They are 3/8, again 4/7/8, just for something that's a little bit heavier. See if there's a little bit different condition on all these houses that are starting to go to the acrylic lanes, just needing something as maybe just a backup. But I run a couple 4 3/4 3/6s as well. I've got some Scorpions. They're my second oldest set. Had them since probably 2000, so I've run a long time with some of the balls that I've got. And then this weekend for the 20 game, I actually threw my Paramounts for the first time in probably 4 or 5 years. But yeah, I run the 4 sets in my bag all the time and just figure out which one's going to work on the lanes, and for the mental state too.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're saying that you had a set of balls since '94,
Yeah.
and they were 3.6. I wonder what they weigh now.
I wonder. I offered to put them on the scale at the Tour Championship, but
They weren't doing it then.
Hold
Don't
on,
worry,
hold on.
they weren't doing it
The
then
Karie-
at all.
the
We're
Karie
only
deny that?
measuring Tim Wiseman's, so it's fine.
That's
I
very
asked
gentlemanlike of you. I'm glad that didn't affect your game.
Yeah.
Well, I did. Did you see his match?
Did you see how I started the match?
So what's on your bucket list, Vic?
Obviously, Autumn Open win is one of those. Want to get that one because then I could actually say that I've won Alberta as far as the cash tournaments. I know that list would be pretty small for those who have potentially won that. So I think that's definitely on the to-do list before I start talking about retirement, Adam. So it's it's one of those
Every
things
week.
yeah, it's one of those things I've always wanted to do. Like I said, I've had some pretty good finishes there, but just never enough to actually clinch it out.
To tell you the truth, Vic, I don't think anybody has. Nope. Matt hasn't because Matt's missing Heritage. I'm missing TPC. Adam's missing Heritage.
Gino's missing Paradise.
Gino's missing Autumn, yeah. And
Bruce
Bruce
was on
retired
round.
before. Well, Bruce played Red Deer a couple times and then he retired.
Wait, does KG count?
Well, technically,
KG in Alberta.
Yeah, I was just going for Alberta. Yeah, I haven't bowled Regina. It's the wrong time of season for me. My oldest daughter, her birthday is that weekend. I almost made it this year because they changed the weekend. They changed to the second week of February instead of the third. So it almost made it possible. But yeah, that's what I want to do. I bowled well for nationals there when we were there. So
yeah.
I think it'd be a good tournament, and watching everybody go, it's just it looks like a lot of fun. I do want to do it. So, but yeah, the last bucket list that I don't think I'll ever get is probably a master single out of Alberta. I've had the chance of making the team 3 times now out of 4 attempts. I don't bowl it every year, obviously, with that kind of record, but yeah, I've had 1 tournament win in those 4 years, and so I'm never that guy that can walk away with a tournament. But yeah, the steady Eddie. I think this year I had the lowest average, and but all my games, even the tossers, were 100 sticks from top to bottom. So
that's a tough thing with Alberta Masters, right? If you don't have one of those really high tournaments, it's sometimes pretty tough to make that team.
Yeah.
If I can do it, Vic,
this
you
year.
can.
You've done it twice though, Tim, now, haven't you?
Tim throws 2,500s every year, so
3 times.
of course he makes it.
That's easy.
No.
25 points, right? So
Yeah.
How's nationals gone though, Timmy?
I don't know. Ask Clark and Laycox.
Also not a closer.
That's what she said.
No, it's a great bucket list, Vic. I'm sure
Agreed.
if you played Masters more often, you'll definitely be an Alberta single in no time.
Mm-hmm. For sure he would.
I didn't know that nobody had won Alberta, so that's a good challenge. I like that.
Just because you need
I'm
one
in.
now.
I'm in. Let's go.
Stupid
you're only
fly.
missing 1 Dex, aren't you?
Sorry?
You're only missing 1
He's
too, aren't
missing
you, Dex?
Heritage.
Yeah, just Heritage, yeah.
Him and Adam can duke it out for that one.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how many more pictures fall on you first.
I've stopped flopping into the wall for safety reasons now.
Hey, Vic, though, when you win the Autumn, can you do it on Sunday at least?
That's fair.
Instead of waiting until Monday or something? Or what do you
Tim
think?
won it,
Tim
on a
was
Wednesday.
Wednesday, Timmy?
They had a
what
scoring,
are you talking about?
scoring
Yeah,
error.
sorry, the scoring issue. Yes. Forgot about that. Yeah, that's right.
So, Vic, I have a question for you then.
Sure.
Because I think back in the past, when we talked about bucket lists and everything else like that, it's like, who would you want to play with on a team that you haven't before? And I think you said Adam,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I know
So now that I've done that,
probably disappointment. But that being said, now do you have, who is your guy that you haven't played with that you want to play with?
Yeah, Adam was definitely on that list, but if I have to go with nostalgia, like for some of the older ones, Bruce would definitely be on that list, and I think that came up. I can't remember which podcast it was, but yeah, Bruce would be one. I'd love to bowl a team with my dad as well again. That would be it's definitely a treat to be able to do that, and yeah, having that opportunity. Trying to think about who else would be on that list. There's a lot of great guys that I would love to bowl with. Thinking back to like Ken Norris in his heyday, like that guy was a rock to be able to watch when I was growing up. Adam, you probably had that opportunity as well, being from Calgary at that age, like being able to watch him go like that. Tom Stevenson,
man, his ball was something else. So he would be another player that would absolutely despise Bonnie Doon.
Yes.
Yeah, he had that big slow curve, but man, was that accurate. He would eat up old Chinook.
Yes.
When it was super oiled, but it would just eat up the pocket. What a phenomenal player. One of those guys that probably never received the recognition that he truly deserved in this game.
Yeah. Dad's got so many stories going up against him in step ladders and stuff, and it'd be, first couple of frames you'd be able to get ahead of Ken, and then after you found the line, he'd destroy you. So that's one thing that's tough to do nowadays, I think, is get that line, like have a couple frames to play a line and then just go. Because nowadays it seems that you need to go from the start. You don't really get too many frames to figure something out. So,
well, especially with his type of style, just how hard, like you're playing such a big backup. Yeah. How are you able to play that big a backup and then instantly find it one frame in? It's phenomenal. Yeah.
Especially at
great,
that speed,
great
right?
player.
Yeah.
Another guy, Dave Sanderson, was the absolutely identical. You should. That's one thing I would love to pull up some of his old stats from Winnipeg. Back in free fall days, he was throwing like 10, 12 400s a year with that shot. Like it was just deadly accurate. There's another guy that we had the old Canada Top 100 and did all that stuff in his so-called popularity contest. Really, right there's a guy that should have easily made that cut if that presence was pushed a little bit further. His records are phenomenal as well.
Didn't even know. I knew he was a good player. I didn't think he was that good.
Well, that's just it, right? So, and unfortunately for Alberta, who kind of saw him near the tail end of his career, and he could still play it even at that level, but especially on free fall, like his ball speed is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple others, and I'd have to go to the ladies' side on this one. Tracy Smith, got a chance to bowl with her for the tournament championship during the Gallagher Cup. That would be an awesome opportunity, I think. Obviously, not ever to bowl in Calgary, so making a mixed team out of Calgary is pretty hard for me to do, and I don't think she's going to Central anytime soon. So that's one that would be great. And then Diane Violini would be one of the other ones. That would be great to spend some time on a team with. Just the amount of knowledge and gaining information that's just within her brain and that she shows on the lanes it's absolutely amazing. So I've always had great opportunities during Masters. Whenever we got paired up for a tournament, I knew it was going to be a good day, just with what she had. So it'd be fun to actually bowl a tournament with her.
Had the opportunity to bowl with her at the Masters Nationals in 2009, and just to watch her composure, as well as watching some of the other female bowlers just literally you fall apart frame 7, 8, 9. to her 240, 250, just steady pace. And then just what she was able to do mentally to these people by not saying a word, right? And one match that I vividly remember, and I can't remember who she was playing. She threw 4 2-pins in that match, spared all 4 of them, shot 280 and won by 50, right? Because even those 2-pins wasn't enough to allow the other person to be able to shoot their game against it. It's freaking Diane Violini, right? That'd be another person on my personal bucket list as well, Vic. So I totally get that.
Yeah, Newfoundland in 2013, we were both the singles reps there. Never got to actually bowl with her on the same set, but obviously crossing lanes a fair bit. So having a few opportunities there, but yeah, that was an amazing bowl national, at least beside her anyway. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, bowling with her on a team, I think would be next step up. So
yeah, that's a great question, Tim. Thanks for that. So we'll make one last segue here. So spoilers for people that haven't watched the first 2 episodes of the WCBT. If you don't want to hear the results and you want to watch them, tune out now.
go watch them.
Yeah. So the WCBT, just for people know, the members' profiles are back up, all updated from last season. And we are updating them after every release as well of the episodes, because there's obviously television matches and stuff like that on there. So they'll be updating the profiles the day after each release. But so Vic, me and you were the unfortunate ones knocked off the TV show at 9-1 records. That's
Yep. I didn't wait till 10 to get mine though.
I was pretty much given mine. Let's be fair here. I know that was your first time playing on under the lights of that specific filming. How did it feel? I don't want your reaction on the loss, but how did it feel to play under the lights?
Well, that's something that I've been striving for since the tour kind of really got going, is just being able to have that opportunity. It's a different format, obviously, so just being able to play that was something I was looking forward to. Obviously disappointed that I lost, but it was, I think every time you get an opportunity to have that experience, it just kind of goes into the memory bank of, okay, what am I doing to get there next time so that I can be better than I was before? Because one thing I've always pushed is, I don't mind losing when I'm throwing 280s, 290s, because I know that they had to throw better than that to beat me. I have the problem when I throw like a buck 90 or 200 to lose, because I know I could have done better.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's something that commentating was on the episode. You punched 4 times, I punched 3 times. Obviously, our opponents didn't punch, right? It was them avoiding the punching and making some key strikes. In my match, I got ripped in the 6th frame on a left corner, I do believe it was. That didn't cost me the match, but it put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it was definitely a turning point.
So, like, after seeing that, is there anything you want to reflect on to your episode, that something you wish you would have maybe tried a little bit earlier, or if you made any changes throughout the match, or what your thoughts are on that?
So I think it was the shot in the 6th frame, the one that was actually highlighted through the entry feed. So I was like, yeah, I'm on the first list, yay! But I think that was a shot that if I didn't come back as hard as I did and get that pumped up, I think it would have been an easier shot in the next frame. So staying within myself more than I did, I think, is probably the one thing that I regret the most, because if you look at every strike before that, I came back a lot more relaxed and not nearly as pumped up. Yes, it was a big shot to kind of keep me in the match, but I think it would have been easier for the next frame, because I think I punched the next frame. So, it was too much adrenaline for that next shot, and I didn't get calmed down enough before throwing. So that's probably the one shot I would like to take back. Is the second is actually that strike.
Yeah. Obviously, I wish I would have thrown more strikes, but my big switch was in the sixth frame. I was throwing Manhattans to start the first 5 frames, got into that 3 frame carryover going into the sixth frame, and decided that I needed a ball switch, and I moved actually a board left and moved to a soft roll and threw it absolutely where I wanted it. And unfortunately, got tapped, and then Tyler threw the bouncing strike to win the whole match. But the only thing I can take away from that match now, even though I did lose 9-1, is I made the switch, I made the change, and it was the right change. Just a bad result, and that's a positive. At least I can take away from that match is at least I made the right decision. Albeit I should have made it earlier, but I just people watching those episodes definitely take that into consideration when you're watching. Watch the guys make changes. It's maybe a little bit tough with the camera angles and stuff like that, but you can definitely notice when guys are trying something out because they're behind in the match or they're in a tough spot, and maybe they switch a ball or they switch a line or they switch release or something like that. These guys are the top 14 since a couple people dropped out before the tour finals on the tour, and they're the ones making the shots. And we're going to be seeing Tim's fairly soon. I think it comes out on Monday, and then obviously the Dexter and Adams, they come out next week, I do believe, as well. So stay tuned and pay attention. We're posting on Facebook. It comes out on YouTube all the time. At 5 o'clock every second day, not on weekends. So.
And one thing I think that people need to kind of realize when it comes to these types of matches, even though they're, like 15, 17-minute type matches, when you're out there on the lane, it flies by, right? Like it goes extremely quick. So for somebody to actually have the wherewithal in that moment to make that switch is really something that people need to realize how important that is, to really understand your own game. Like for someone like myself, I'm probably throwing the star lines all the time anyways, but I will make a line change in the match, right? First couple frames just don't feel right. I will try something just to get some feel, and it might not even be the right move, but you change something out there. And especially this group that made the final 14, every single player has that option just to change something. You might not see it as part of the gallery or part of the taping after the fact, but know that everybody's thinking about that change. And honestly, I think that's what makes us that caliber of player, that we're willing to make those changes in what feels like a 2-minute match that lasts 18 minutes.
It takes balls to do it, especially in that situation, just because, man, there's an inherent fear of making a big mistake when you're being filmed. It's one thing to make a change and then, oh, well, that's not going to work. Well, 4 frames later, you're at the TPC or whatever, you try something different and you move on, right? Nobody sees anything. But with this, they see absolutely everything. So there's an inherent fear where you don't want to be bad and you don't want to make a major mistake. So it takes balls to do it. It takes confidence in your game to make that change, Karie. So good for you.
Just wish
We'll talk about mine next week.
Just wish it would have ended in a better result. That's all.
It was a better result than a headpin.
And I haven't had a chance to watch your match today, Karie, but the one thing I do kind of remember from yours and Vic's match, there was a bunch of carryovers, were there not?
Yeah, so right off the bat, there was a 3-frame carryover, which I obviously lost. And then Tyler won the very next frame, so he was up 4-0, and then it was another 3-frame carryover going into 6. And that's when I got roasted, and he ended up double dribbling the ball at the foul line and it was just thin enough it carried out.
Hmm.
And that he locked up the match obviously by then. And then I think there was another couple frame carryover in there. We threw a couple strikes, and then I spared in 10. He missed his right corner spare in 10 to give me my only frame of the match. But obviously that wasn't the point. By the 6th frame it was already over. But for my 3rd time being there, obviously I wish it was better results. But playing against the defending champion and then stuff like that, and Tyler was coming in, he's been playing great, right? And a little,
I'm afraid of him in the adult ranks now, to be honest.
yeah, a little bit.
That's one less spot for us for Masters.
And just a little side note, like, actually no, I'll leave that out. It doesn't matter. Yeah, he's phenomenal, and obviously you get to see him for another match in this tour finals, so look forward to watching that one. I think that's good to go. Does anybody else have anything they want to add before we wrap up this podcast? Perfect.
Nope.
All right. Well, thanks, Vic.
Oh,
Thanks for joining us.
Dex,
No problem.
hey, Dex, any rules?
No rules.
Oh, come
Pure
on.
anarchy.
All right, guys. Thanks, and please subscribe to our SoundCloud account. And if you want to help support 5-Pin Universe with the future projects we have going on for this season, please sign up to our Patreon. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Mike.
See ya.